The Awakening, Earth's Last Stand. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 1,000 worlds shifted uneasily in their seats. At the center of the vast amphitheater, a holographic display flickered to life, revealing the unmistakable spiral arms of the Milky Way. A red blip pulsed ominously near the Orion arm. High Counselor Zixnereth, a towering figure with iridescent scales and 4 piercing eyes, raised a clawed hand for silence. Esteemed colleagues, the alien's voice reverberated through the chamber. The swarm approaches. Our worst fears have been realized. A collective shudder passed through the assembly. The swarm, a relentless, hive-minded species that consumed everything in its path, had been the stuff of galactic nightmares for millennia. Now it was no longer a distant threat. The swarm will reach the edge of populated space within 1 galactic standard year, Zixnereth continued. We must unite our fleets, pool our resources, and make our stand. As murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, a small, unassuming figure rose from the back of the chamber. Admiral Ilara Chen, Earth's representative, stood barely 5 feet tall, her weathered face a stark contrast to the exotic features surrounding her. "And what of Earth?" she asked, her voice cutting through the din. "What role will humanity play in this war?" The chamber fell silent, and then, to Ilara's dismay, nervous laughter broke out. Zixnereth's upper eyes blinked in what Ilara had come to recognize as the alien equivalent of an condescending smile. "Admiral Chen," Zixnereth said, "while we appreciate Earth's enthusiasm, surely you understand that this is a matter for the advanced races of the galaxy. Your world has barely mastered interplanetary travel. What could you possibly contribute to this fight?" Ilara's jaw clenched, but she held her ground. "Humanity has faced extinction before, Counselor. We've fought wars that have scared our planet and nearly wiped us out. Yet here we stand. We may not have the most advanced technology, but we have something just as valuable: the will to survive against all odds." The laughter died down, replaced by an uncomfortable silence. Zixnereth's lower eyes narrowed. "Very well, Admiral. Earth may contribute a token force to the defense fleet, but do not expect to be on the front lines. We cannot risk the lives of our advanced ships to protect your outdated vessels." As Ilara took her seat, she knew the battle wasn't just against the swarm. It was against the prejudice and dismissal of the galactic community. But she also knew something they didn't. Humanity had an ace up its sleeve. Back on Earth, in a top-secret facility buried deep beneath the Mariana Trench, Dr. Yuki Tanaka stood before a massive view screen, her eyes scanning rows of data. Behind her, suspended in a hangar filled with viscous fluid, loomed the silhouette of an enormous spaceship. "How are the simulations progressing?" a gruff voice asked. Admiral Marcus Graves, a bear of a man with a scared face and cybernetic left eye, stepped up beside her. Yuki pushed a strand of graying hair behind her ear. "Better than expected, sir. The Lazarus Protocol is showing a 78% success rate in bringing the old systems online." Graves nodded, his organic eye fixed on the ship. "And the crew?" "The neural interfaces are stable. The volunteers are adapting well to the cybernetic enhancements. They'll be ready when the time comes." The Admiral's face softened for a moment. "They know this is likely a one-way trip, don't they?" Yuki nodded solemnly. "They do. But they also know what's at stake. If we fail, Earth falls. And after Earth, the galaxy," Graves finished. He squared his shoulders. "Well, let's make sure it doesn't come to that. How long until the Normandy is ready for launch?" Yuki tapped a few commands into her console. "Final systems checks will be complete in 48 hours. After that, we can begin the awakening process." Graves allowed himself a grim smile. "Good. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of." As they spoke, 300 million kilometers away on the edge of the solar system, an alien probe silently slipped past Pluto's orbit. Its sensors scanned the inner planets, lingering on the blue marble of Earth. Data streamed back across light years of space to the approaching swarm. Earth, populated, technologically inferior, easy prey. The probe adjusted its course, preparing to infiltrate deeper into the system. But as it passed Neptune, something changed. A flicker of energy, almost imperceptible, washed over its sensors. Then another, and another. Deep in the icy depths of Neptune's largest moon, Triton, ancient machinery grown to life. Quantum computers that had lain dormant for millennia began to hum. And in sealed chambers, rows of stasis pods began their wake-up sequences. Back on Earth, in the United Nations General Assembly Hall, Ilara Chen stood before the world's leaders. The room was tense, filled with a mix of fear and determination. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ilara began, her voice steady despite the weight of her words, "I won't sugarcoat this. We face an enemy unlike any we've encountered before. The swarm has consumed countless worlds, and now it's headed for us." Murmurs of disbelief and fear rippled through the crowd. Ilara raised a hand for silence. "But we are not without hope. For decades, we've prepared for this day in secret. Operation Lazarus is now active. As we speak, we are awakening weapons and ships of incredible power, relics from Earth's forgotten past that we've spent years reverse engineering and enhancing." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We've also been uplifting volunteers, brave men and women who've undergone extensive cybernetic enhancements to interface with these ancient machines. They will be our vanguard against the swarm." The assembly erupted in a cacophony of questions and exclamations. Ilara waited for the noise to die down before continuing. "I know this is a lot to take in, but we don't have the luxury of time for lengthy debates. The swarm is coming, and we must be ready. The fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy, may rest on our shoulders." As Ilara fielded questions from increasingly agitated world leaders across the solar system, humanity's secret weapons stirred. On Mars, beneath the red sands of Olympus Mons, fusion reactors roared to life, powering up a massive underground shipyard. Robotic arms began assembling sleek, deadly fighters and corvettes, their designs a fusion of ancient technology and modern innovations. In the asteroid belt, camouflaged mining stations revealed their true nature, transforming into heavily armed battle stations. Swarms of autonomous drones detached from hidden bays, forming a complex defense grid. And on Titan, Saturn's largest moon, a sprawling facility hidden beneath the methane seas completed final checks on a weapon that defied the laws of physics as the galaxy understood them. Back in the Mariana Trench facility, Admiral Graves watched as the Normandy systems came online one by one. The massive ship, nearly a kilometer long, was a testament to human ingenuity and the forgotten knowledge of their ancestors. "Sir," a young lieutenant called out, "we're detecting an energy spike from Triton. It matches the signatures we've been monitoring." Graves nodded, a mix of excitement and apprehension coursing through him. "It's happening. They're waking up." On Triton, in a chamber bathed in soft blue light, a stasis pod hissed open. A figure stirred, eyes opening for the first time in thousands of years. Captain Aria Novak, her body a seamless blend of flesh and advanced cybernetics, took her first breath of the new era. As she stepped out of the pod, her neural implants connected with Triton's systems. In an instant, she absorbed millennia of history, understanding the dire situation that had triggered her awakening. "Status report," she commanded, her voice raspy from disuse. A holographic display flickered to life before her. "All systems operational, Captain," an eye responded. "The Titan is ready for launch. Crew revival is at 97% completion." Aria nodded, her mind already formulating strategies. "Begin pre-launch sequences. We have a galaxy to save." As humanity's hidden forces stirred to life across the solar system, the alien probe that had slipped past Pluto found itself suddenly surrounded. Sleek, predatory ships of unknown design materialized from the void, their weapons trained on the intruder. Before the probe could transmit a warning, a concentrated beam of energy reduced it to its constituent atoms. The message to the approaching swarm died unsent. In the Galactic Council chamber, alarms blared. Zix-Nereth rushed to the central holodisplay, his 4 eyes wide with shock. "Impossible," he muttered as new data streamed in. "Earth's solar system. It's a fortress." As the counselors gathered, trying to make sense of the sudden surge of activity from the supposedly primitive human system, a communication request flashed on the main screen. Admiral Ilara Chin's face appeared, her expression a mix of determination and barely concealed satisfaction. "Counselors," she said, her voice firm, "humanity stands ready to face the swarm. We request immediate integration into the defense plans. It's time we showed you what Earth can really do." The chamber erupted into chaos as the galactic powers grappled with this sudden shift in the balance of power. As accusations flew and alliances shifted, one thing became clear. The coming war would reshape the galaxy in ways no one could have predicted. And at the heart of it all stood humanity. No longer the newcomers, but the potential saviors of galactic civilization. The stage was set for a conflict that would determine the fate of countless worlds. In the depths of space, unaware of the storm brewing in its path, the swarm continued its relentless advance. The battle for the galaxy was about to begin. Unveiling the ancient arsenal, the cavernous war room deep beneath Geneva buzzed with activity. Holographic displays flickered with real-time data from across the solar system, painting a picture of feverish preparation. Admiral Ilara Chen stood at the center, her eyes darting from one screen to another as she coordinated humanity's defense efforts. "Status report on the Lazarus fleet," she commanded, her voice crisp and authoritative. A young officer, his uniform bearing the newly minted insignia of the United Earth Defense Force, stepped forward. "The Normandy is fully operational, Admiral. Captain Rice reports all systems go. The rest of the fleet is at 85% readiness. We expect full combat capability within 48 hours." Ilara nodded, allowing herself a small smile. The Normandy, Earth's flagship and a crown jewel of Operation Lazarus, represented humanity's best hope against the swarm, but it wasn't their only ace. "And Triton?" she asked, turning to another screen. Dr. Yuki Tanaka's face appeared, her eyes bright with excitement despite the dark circles beneath them. "The awakening process is complete, Admiral. Captain Novak and her crew are fully integrated with the Titan. They're running final checks now." A murmur of anticipation rippled through the war room. The Titan, a massive battleship of ancient design, had been the most shocking discovery of the Lazarus excavations. Its technology was so advanced that even after years of study, Earth's best scientists had only begun to scratch the surface of its capabilities. "Excellent," Ilara said. "And the defense grid?" Another officer chimed in. "The asteroid belt fortifications are online, Admiral. Mars shipyards are operating at 120% capacity, churning out fighters and corvettes. Jupiter's moons are rigged with gravity well generators, ready to disrupt swarm navigation." Ilara took a deep breath, taking in the enormity of what they had accomplished in secret over the past decades. Humanity had transformed its entire solar system into a fortress, all while the galaxy at large dismissed them as technological infants. "What's the status on the Titan weapon?" she asked, her voice lowering. The room fell silent. Dr. Tanaka's expression turned grave. "It's operational, Admiral, but the power requirements are enormous. Using it could destabilize Saturn's rings. We're still not sure of all the consequences." Ilara nodded solemnly. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that. But if it's a choice between Saturn's rings and Earth's survival..." She left the thought unfinished. Everyone knew what was at stake. Suddenly, an alarm blared. All eyes turned to the main display as a sea of red dots appeared at the edge of the solar system. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected. An officer shouted, "It's not the swarm. It's the Galactic Defense Fleet." Ilara's eyes narrowed. "Right on time," she muttered. "Open a channel to the flagship." The screen flickered, revealing the stern visage of High Admiral Zixnareth. His 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of agitation in his species. "Admiral Chen," he said, his tone a mix of confusion and barely concealed anger. "Would you care to explain why our fleet just encountered a minefield of quantum disruptors at the edge of your system?" Ilara allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. "My apologies, High Admiral. It seems we forgot to send you the updated navigation charts for our home defense system." Zixnareth's lower eyes narrowed. "Home defense system? Your people were barely capable of reaching your own moon a few decades ago. How did you?" "I believe," Ilara interrupted smoothly, "that we have more pressing matters to discuss. The swarm will be here soon. Shall we coordinate our defense strategies?" For a moment, it looked like Zixnareth might explode with indignation, but millennia of diplomatic training won out. "Very well," he said stiffly. "I'm sending a delegation to your war room. This had better be good, Admiral Chen." As the communication ended, Ilara turned to her staff. "Prepare for our guests, and alert all Lazarus assets. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity can do." Hours later, the war room had transformed into a hub of interspecies cooperation, albeit a tense one. Alien diplomats and military strategists huddled around displays, their expressions a mix of awe and suspicion as Earth's representatives walked them through the solar system's defenses. In one corner, a blue-skinned Arcturian admiral gesticulated wildly as he argued with a human engineer about the physics behind the gravity well generators orbiting Jupiter. Nearby, a group of insectoid Vespid tacticians chittered excitedly as they examined holographic models of Earth's new fighter designs. Ilara stood with Zixnareth and a handful of other high-ranking alien officials, walking them through the overall defense plan. The High Admiral's earlier hostility had given way to a grudging respect as the scope of humanity's preparations became clear. "Your asteroid belt defense grid is impressive," Zixnareth admitted, "but surely you don't expect it to hold against the full might of the swarm." Ilara shook her head. "It's not meant to. The grid is our first line of defense, designed to break up their formation and funnel them into killing zones." She gestured to a cluster of red dots near Saturn. "That's where we spring the trap." One of the alien officials, a crystalline being that communicated through pulses of light, flashed a series of rapid colors. A translator drone hovering nearby interpreted, "But your ships, even with your unexpected advancements, are still technologically inferior to ours. How can they stand against the swarm when even our fleets struggle?" Ilara's eyes glinted. "Sometimes, High Admiral, the old ways are the best ways. Our ships may not have the energy shields or antimatter weaponry that yours do, but they have something the swarm hasn't encountered in millennia: good old-fashioned kinetic weaponry." She tapped a control, and a holographic simulation sprang to life. It showed an Earth vessel, small compared to the sleek alien ships, firing what looked like a simple projectile. The projectile accelerated to impossible speeds, slamming into a swarm bioship with devastating effect. "Railguns," Ilara explained. "Massive coil guns powered by micro-fusion reactors. They fire projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. No energy shield can stop that kind of kinetic impact." The alien officials murmured among themselves, a mix of impressed and skeptical. Zixnareth stroked his chin thoughtfully. "Interesting, but surely the swarm will adapt quickly." Ilara nodded. "We're counting on it. That's why we have other surprises in store." She turned to another display, this one showing a massive ship emerging from Titan's methane seas. Like the Titan, the room fell silent as the aliens took in the enormous vessel. Even to their advanced eyes, its design was like nothing they'd ever seen. What is that?" Zixnareth asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Ilara's expression was grim. "That, High Admiral, is a remnant of Earth's forgotten past, a weapon of last resort, created by our ancestors to fight a war we've only begun to remember. Before she could elaborate, alarms blared throughout the war room. All eyes turned to the main display, where a massive swarm of red dots had appeared at the edge of the solar system. Multiple hyperspace ruptures detected. An officer shouted, "It's the swarm. They're here." The room erupted into controlled chaos as both human and alien officials rushed to battle stations. Ilara locked eyes with Zixnarath, all pretense of diplomatic niceties forgotten in the face of the coming storm. "I hope you're ready to witness history, High Admiral," she said, her voice steel. "Because one way or another, the galaxy changes today." Zixnarath nodded grimly. "For all our sakes, Admiral Chen, I hope your confidence is not misplaced." As the war room mobilized, out in the dark void of space, humanity's hidden arsenal stirred to life. On the Normandy, Captain Diego Reyes sat in a command chair that seemed to mold itself to his cybernetically enhanced body. Neural links connected him directly to the ship's systems, allowing him to feel every power fluctuation, every weapon charging. "All hands, battle stations," he ordered, his voice calm despite the adrenaline surging through him. "This is what we've trained for. Let's show these bugs what happens when they mess with Earth." Throughout the ship, crews rushed to their posts. In the engine room, fusion reactors hummed with barely contained power. Weapons officers ran final checks on the massive railguns that ran the length of the ship, and in sealed chambers, rows of stasis pods opened, releasing squads of cybernetically enhanced Marines, ready to repel any boarding attempts. Similar scenes played out across the solar system. On Mars, swarms of fighters launched from hidden bases, forming up into deadly attack squadrons. The asteroid belt came alive with energy signatures as automated defense platforms powered up. And from Jupiter's moons, gravity well generators spooled to life, ready to turn the very fabric of space into a weapon. But perhaps the most awe-inspiring sight was the emergence of the Titan from Saturn's rings. Captain Aria Novak stood on a bridge that seemed more organic than mechanical, her consciousness merged with the ancient ship's systems. Around her, a crew of enhanced humans worked in perfect synchronization, their movements guided by the ship's semi-sentient eye. Titan reporting ready for combat. Aria's voice echoed across all command channels, awaiting orders. Back in the Geneva war room, Ilara Chen took a deep breath, steeling herself for the battle to come. She looked around at the mixed group of human and alien leaders, all watching her expectantly. This was the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. "All forces, this is Admiral Chen," she said, her voice carrying to every ship, every station, every soldier in the system. "The enemy is at our doorstep. They think they've come to consume another helpless world. Let's show them how wrong they are." She paused, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. Humanity has faced extinction before. We've weathered ice ages, survived global wars, and clawed our way to the stars. We are survivors, innovators, and warriors. And today, we fight not just for Earth, but for every sentient being in this galaxy. Ilara's eyes blazed with determination. "Remember your training. Trust in each other. And no matter what happens, never give up. Because as long as one human heart still beats, there's hope." She took one last look at the tactical display, watching as the swarm's vanguard entered the outer solar system. Then, with a voice that would echo across the stars, she gave the order that would change the course of galactic history. "All units, engage the enemy. For Earth and for the galaxy, attack." And with that, the greatest battle in human history began. As the first waves of swarm bioships entered the asteroid belt, they were met with a hail of fire from hidden gun emplacements. Earth's fighters darted between the rocks, engaging in furious dogfights with swarm drones. The Normandy led a battle group toward Saturn, its massive railguns leaving trails of superheated plasma as they fired projectiles at relativistic speeds. Each shot punched through multiple swarm ships, leaving devastation in its wake. And at the heart of it all, the Titan moved with impossible grace for a ship of its size, its weapons firing streams of energy that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Where it struck, swarm ships simply ceased to exist, erased from reality itself. As the battle raged, aliens and humans alike watched in awe from the war room. Humanity, long dismissed as primitive, was unleashing fury like the galaxy had never seen. The swarm, for the first time in eons, found itself on the defensive. But this was only the beginning. The true test was yet to come, as the main body of the swarm approached. The fate of Earth, and indeed the entire galaxy, hung in the balance, and at the center of it all stood humanity, no longer the newcomers, but the potential saviors of all sentient life. The battle for everything had begun. The battle of Saturn's rings. The void of space erupted in a symphony of destruction. Railgun rounds tore through the vacuum at relativistic speeds, leaving trails of ionized particles in their wake. Swarm bioships exploded in silent bursts of organic matter and crystallized fluids. Earth's fighters danced between the asteroids, their advanced targeting systems allowing them to strike with surgical precision. On the bridge of the Normandy, Captain Diego Reis felt every impact, every evasive maneuver, as if it were an extension of his own body. His cybernetic enhancements allowed him to process battlefield data at superhuman speeds, making split-second decisions that meant the difference between life and death. "Sigma Squadron, watch your six," he barked, his voice transmitting directly through neural links. Swarm drones coming in hot from Sector 7. As if in response to his warning, a swarm of smaller bioships broke through the asteroid defense grid, hurtling towards the Normandy's position. But before Reyes could issue new orders, a blinding flash of light erupted from behind Saturn. The Titan had entered the fray. Captain Aria Novak stood at the heart of the ancient warship, her consciousness merged with its systems. She didn't see the battle through view screens or tactical displays. She was the ship, feeling the ebb and flow of combat like currents in an ocean of chaos. "Targeting solutions acquired," she said, her voice eerily calm. Engaging primary weapons array. The Titan's main cannon fired, unleashing a beam of energy that defied conventional physics. Where it struck, space itself seemed to ripple and tear. Swarm ships caught in its path didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist, erased from reality as if they had never been. In the Geneva War Room, alien observers watched in stunned silence. Zixnereth's 4 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. "By the Cosmic Forge," he whispered, "what manner of weapon is that?" Admiral Ilara Chen, her eyes fixed on the tactical display, allowed herself a grim smile. "That, High Admiral, is why we keep Saturn's rings intact. They're not just ice and rock. They're fuel for the Titan's main gun." Before Zixnereth could respond, a junior officer called out in alarm. "Admiral, we're detecting a massive energy spike from the swarm fleet. They're adapting." Ilara's smile faded. This was the moment they had feared and prepared for. "All units, initiate Phase 2, she commanded. "Activate the gravity well generators. Let's see how these bugs handle a little spatial distortion." Across the Jovian moons, massive generators hummed to life. The fabric of space-time began to warp and twist, creating a maze of gravitational eddies and whirlpools. Swarm ships, caught unprepared, found themselves torn apart by tidal forces or flung off course into waiting kill zones. But the swarm was nothing if not adaptable. As quickly as the gravity wells appeared, the bioships began to evolve. New appendages sprouted, pulsing with dark energy that allowed them to navigate the twisted space. "They're adapting faster than we anticipated," Rise reported from the Normandy. "Request permission to deploy Nemesis units." Ilara hesitated for a split second. The Nemesis squads, neurally enhanced Marine Expeditionary Special Intelligence Service, were humanity's ultimate ground troops. Cybernetically augmented beyond anything the public knew about, they were trained to board and sabotage swarm high ships. But deploying them was risky. If captured, they could provide the swarm with invaluable data on human biology and technology. Permission granted, Ilara said finally. But remind them, if capture is imminent, they are to initiate total neural wipe. We can't risk the swarm assimilating their knowledge. As the Nemesis drop pods launched from Earth ships across the battlefield, the war room's attention was drawn to a new threat. A massive swarm-high ship, easily dwarfing anything seen so far, emerged from hyperspace near Uranus. "Dear God," someone whispered, "it's a Nexus." The Nexus was the swarm equivalent of a command ship, housing the hive mind that coordinated their entire invasion force. Its appearance signaled that the swarm was committing fully to this battle. Zixnarath turned to Ilara, his earlier skepticism replaced by grudging respect. "Your forces have fought admirably, Admiral Chen, but not even your Titan can stand against a Nexus. We should consider falling back to." He was cut off by a burst of static from the main communication channel. A face appeared on screen, a man with weathered features and a cybernetic eye. "Admiral Marcus Graves." "This is Admiral Graves from Titan Base," he said, his voice gruff. "We're tracking the Nexus. Permission to deploy the hammer." A hush fell over the war room. The hammer was the code name for Earth's weapon of last resort, a device of such power that its mere existence had been kept secret from even most of Earth's military. Ilara took a deep breath. "You're sure it's ready?" Graves nodded grimly. "As ready as it'll ever be. But I warn you, using it will likely destabilize Saturn's rings. We may lose the Titan's power source." For a moment, Ilara closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the decision on her shoulders. When she opened them, her gaze was steel. "Do it." Graves saluted and the screen went dark. Zixnarath looked at Ilara with a mixture of curiosity and concern. "What is this hammer?" Ilara's response was cut short by a blinding flash from the direction of Saturn. For a moment, it seemed as if a second sun had ignited in the solar system. When the light faded, Saturn's rings were gone, and in their place was a swirling vortex of energy, growing larger by the second. "That," Ilara said quietly, "is a weaponized Einstein-Rosen bridge, a wormhole gun." The vortex lashed out, a tendril of space-time distortion that crossed the vast distance to Uranus in an instant. It engulfed the swarm Nexus, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, with a silent flash, the massive ship vanished. In the stunned silence that followed, Ilara explained, "The hammer doesn't destroy its targets. It displaces them. In this case, we've sent the Nexus to a point about 2 light-years outside the solar system. It'll take them weeks to return, by which time—" She let the implication hang in the air. By then, the battle would be decided, one way or another. The loss of the Nexus sent the swarm into disarray. Without the central hivemand to coordinate their actions, the bioships fell into disorganized clusters, easy prey for Earth's forces. But the victory came at a cost. With Saturn's rings gone, the Titan's main weapon was powerless, and the swarm, though disorganized, was far from defeated. Like a wounded animal, they fought with increased ferocity, threatening to overwhelm Earth's defenses through sheer numbers. On the Normandy, Captain Rise watched as his ship's energy reserves dwindled. "Main railguns are down to 20% capacity," his weapons officer reported. "Kinetic barriers failing. We can't take much more of this." Similar reports came in from across the fleet. The initial shock of Earth's advanced weaponry had worn off, and now it was a war of attrition. One that humanity, for all its preparations, was ill-equipped to win. In the war room, Ilara faced a difficult decision. "We need to fall back," Zixnarath urged. "Regroup with the main galactic defense fleet." "We can." "No," Ilara cut him off. "If we retreat, we give the swarm time to regroup, to evolve countermeasures against our weapons. This ends here." She turned to her communications officer. "Get me Captain Novak on the Titan." Aria's face appeared on screen. her expression a mask of calm despite the chaos of battle visible behind her. "Admiral," she acknowledged. "Captain," Ilara said, her voice heavy with the weight of command. "It's time. Initiate the Lazarus Protocol." For a moment, something like fear flickered across Aria's face. Then she nodded, her resolve visibly hardening. "Understood, Admiral. It's been an honor." As the communication cut off, Zixnerath turned to Ilara. "What is this Lazarus Protocol?" "Another superweapon." Ilara shook her head. "Not a weapon, High Admiral. A sacrifice." Before she could explain further, the tactical display lit up with new energy signatures. The Titan was moving, accelerating towards the heart of the swarm fleet. But something was different. The ship's energy output was rising exponentially, far beyond anything seen before. "By the stars," one of the alien observers whispered. "The ship, it's turning itself into a bomb." Ilara nodded grimly. "Not just a bomb. A rupture in the fabric of space-time itself. When the Titan detonates, it'll create a temporary singularity. Anything caught within its event horizon will be removed from our universe." The implications hit Zixnerath like a physical blow. "But the crew? Surely they've evacuated." "There is no evacuation," Ilara said softly. "The Lazarus Protocol requires a conscious mind to guide the ship to its target and initiate the final sequence. Captain Novak and her crew, they're riding it in." A stunned silence fell over the war room as the full magnitude of the sacrifice became clear. On screens across the solar system, humans and aliens alike watched as the Titan plunged into the heart of the swarm fleet. Bioships swarmed around it, sensing the danger but unable to stop the Juggernaut's advance. On the Titan's bridge, Captain Aria Novak stood calmly at her post, her mind linked with the ship's systems. Around her, her crew worked with grim determination, each of them fully aware of what was to come. "It's been an honor serving with you all," Aria said, her voice steady. "For Earth. For the galaxy." "For Earth. For the galaxy," her crew echoed. As the ship's core began its final overload sequence, Aria allowed herself one last look at the tactical display. The swarm ships surrounded them, a writhing mass of biomechanical horror. But beyond them, she could see the Earth fleet regrouping, preparing for one final push. A small smile touched her lips. They would win. Humanity would survive. And in the end, that was all that mattered. "Initiating final sequence," she said. "Godspeed, humanity." The Titan erupted in a blaze of light that outshone the sun itself. For a moment, it seemed as if a new star had been born in the solar system. Then, just as quickly, the light collapsed in on itself, forming a swirling vortex of absolute darkness. The singularity expanded rapidly, its event horizon engulfing swarm ships by the thousands. Those that tried to flee found themselves pulled back by irresistible gravitational forces. Within moments, a significant portion of the swarm fleet had simply vanished, erased from the universe, as if they had never existed. As quickly as it had formed, the singularity collapsed, leaving behind nothing but empty space where once a mighty battle had raged. In the Geneva war room, there wasn't a dry eye to be found, human or alien. Ilara stood rigid, her face a mask of grief and determination. "All units," she said, her voice hoarse but unwavering, "press the advantage. Let's finish this. For the Titan. For Earth. For the galaxy." As the remains of Earth's fleet surged forward, engaging the disoriented remnants of the swarm, Zixnerath approached Ilara. For once, the alien's face was free of any trace of condescension or doubt. "Admiral Chen," he said solemnly, "on behalf of the Galactic Council, I offer our deepest respect and gratitude. The sacrifice your people have made today, it will not be forgotten." Ilara nodded, unable to speak for a moment. When she finally found her voice, it was filled with a mixture of sorrow and fierce pride. "Remember this day, High Admiral. Remember what humanity is capable of. Because after today, everything changes. As the last of the swarm ships were mopped up by the combined Earth and galactic fleets, a new chapter in galactic history began to unfold. Humanity, long dismissed as primitive and insignificant, had proven itself to be a force to be reckoned with. The battle was over, but the war for humanity's place in the stars, was just beginning. Turning the tide, humanity's ingenuity unleashed. The aftermath of the Battle of Saturn's Rings left the solar system in an eerie calm. Debris fields of broken swarm bioships and the remnants of human vessels drifted silently through space, a grim testament to the ferocity of the conflict. But amid the destruction, a new energy pulsed through the surviving Earth fleet, a mixture of grief, pride, and steely determination. In the Geneva War Room, Admiral Ilara Chen stood before a gathering of human and alien leaders. The holographic displays showed the current state of the battlefield, with the remaining swarm forces retreating to the outer reaches of the solar system. "We've won a significant victory," Ilara began, her voice steady despite the exhaustion evident in her eyes. "But make no mistake, this war is far from over. The swarm will regroup, adapt, and return. We need to be ready." High Admiral Zixnareth, his earlier skepticism replaced by newfound respect, stepped forward. "The Galactic Council is prepared to offer Earth full military support. Your people have more than proven their worth as allies." Ilara nodded in acknowledgement, but her expression remained grim. "We appreciate the offer, High Admiral, but with all due respect, conventional military tactics won't be enough. The swarm adapts too quickly. We need to think outside the box." She turned to Dr. Yuki Tanaka, who had been quietly analyzing data in the corner. "Doctor, what have we learned from the Nemesis teams that boarded the swarm ships?" Yuki stepped up to the main display, her fingers dancing over the controls. "The data we've gathered is fascinating, to say the least. The swarm's biology is unlike anything we've ever encountered. They don't just evolve, they rewrite their own genetic code in real time." The display showed microscopic images of swarm cellular structures, morphing and changing even as they watched. "But here's the interesting part," Yuki continued, her eyes lighting up with scientific excitement. "Their adaptations aren't random. They follow patterns, incredibly complex ones, but patterns nonetheless." Ilara leaned forward, intrigued. "Are you saying we could predict their adaptations?" Yuki shook her head. "Not predict, but we might be able to influence them, guide their evolution in a direction of our choosing." A murmur ran through the assembled leaders. Zixnareth's upper eyes blinked rapidly. "You're proposing to control the swarm's evolution. That's unprecedented and extremely dangerous. It's also our best shot at long-term victory," Ilara countered. She turned to the room at large. "Ladies and gentlemen, I propose Operation Prometheus. We will steal the swarm's fire, their ability to adapt, and turn it against them." The next few hours were a flurry of heated debate and rapid-fire planning. As the details of Operation Prometheus took shape, it became clear that this would be no conventional military operation. It would require a synthesis of biology, technology, and tactics unlike anything attempted before. On board the Normandy, now serving as the mobile command center for Earth's fleet, Captain Diego Reyes listened intently to the briefing. His cybernetic enhancements processed the flood of information, calculating probabilities and potential outcomes at inhuman speeds. "So let me get this straight," he said as the briefing concluded. "We're going to infect the swarm with a tailored virus that will guide their evolution towards a form that's ultimately self-destructive." Dr. Tanaka, her hologram flickering slightly, nodded. "Essentially, yes. We'll use a combination of engineered bacteria and nanobots to introduce subtle changes to their genetic structure. Over time, these changes will compound, leading to a cascade failure in their ability to adapt." Reyes whistled low. "It's brilliant and utterly terrifying. But how do we deliver this virus without them immediately adapting to it? Ilara's face appeared on another holographic window. That's where you come in, Captain. We need the Normandy to lead a strike team into the heart of the regrouping swarm. You'll need to get close enough to release the Prometheus payload directly into their central biomass. Reyes felt a chill run down his spine. It was practically a suicide mission, but after witnessing the sacrifice of the Titan, how could he refuse? Understood, Admiral. When do we deploy? You have 12 hours to prepare, Ilara replied. Choose your team carefully, Captain. The fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy rests on this mission. As the communication ended, Reyes turned to his crew. He saw the same mix of fear and determination in their eyes that he felt in his gut. All right, people, let's make this happen. For Earth, for the Titan, for every being in this galaxy threatened by the swarm. While the Normandy prepared for its daring mission, back on Earth, a different kind of preparation was underway. In laboratories across the globe, scientists worked feverishly to perfect the Prometheus virus. It was a delicate balance. The virus needed to be subtle enough to avoid immediate detection by the swarm, yet potent enough to create lasting changes in their genetic structure. In one such lab, Dr. Tanaka hunched over a holographic model of swarm DNA, her fingers manipulating the strands with practiced ease. Beside her, a young assistant watched in awe. The key, Yuki muttered, more to herself than her audience, is to make the changes appear beneficial at first. We want the swarm to incorporate these modifications willingly. She zoomed in on a particular section of the DNA. See this sequence here? It governs their ability to process certain types of radiation. If we tweak it just so, her fingers made a subtle adjustment, and the holographic strand shifted slightly. Now it appears to enhance their radiation resistance, but over time, it will make them increasingly vulnerable to specific frequencies. The assistant's eyes widened in understanding, and we can use those frequencies as a weapon against them later. Yuki nodded, a grim smile on her face. Exactly. We're playing a long game here. Each change we introduce will have cascading effects, slowly but surely turning the swarm's greatest strength into its ultimate weakness. As the hours ticked by, the various elements of Operation Prometheus came together. The virus was perfected, delivery systems were designed, and battle plans were drawn up. Throughout it all, there was a palpable sense of desperation mixed with hope. This was humanity's boldest gambit yet, a plan that merged their newfound technological prowess with their age-old capacity for creative problem-solving. 12 hours after the initial briefing, the Normandy prepared to embark on its perilous mission. The ship had been modified, its hull coated with a new metamaterial that mimicked the organic signatures of swarm vessels. In theory, it would allow them to approach the swarm undetected. Captain Rice stood on the bridge, surveying his crew. Each member had been handpicked for this mission, a blend of cybernetically enhanced soldiers and brilliant scientists. They were the best humanity had to offer, and they carried with them the hopes of an entire species. I won't lie to you, Rice said, his voice carrying to every corner of the ship. This mission is dangerous. There's a good chance not all of us will make it back. But what we're about to do could change the course of this war. Hell, the course of galactic history. He paused, making eye contact with each crew member. You all know what's at stake. Earth, our families, every sentient being in this galaxy. The swarm thinks they can simply consume everything in their path. Today, we show them that humanity isn't just another meal. We're the indigestion that brings down the beast. A ripple of grim laughter ran through the crew. Rise allowed himself a small smile before continuing. Remember your training. Trust in each other. And no matter what happens, know that your actions today will echo through the ages. For Earth. For the galaxy. For Earth. For the galaxy. The crew echoed, their voices strong and united. With a nod to his helmsman, Rise gave the order. Take us out. The Normandy slipped away from the Earth fleet, its engines running silent as it made its way towards the last known position of the swarm. As they traveled, the ship's sensors picked up scattered groups of swarm vessels, all converging on a single point in the Kuiper Belt. "Looks like they're gathering for another push," Rise muttered. "Good. Means they'll be distracted." As they approached the growing swarm fleet, tension on the Normandy's bridge ratcheted up. Every crew member knew that discovery would mean instant death. Their only hope lay in the effectiveness of their camouflage and the distraction provided by the swarm's own regrouping efforts. "We're entering the outer perimeter of their fleet," the sensor officer reported, her voice barely above a whisper despite the fact that sound couldn't travel in space. Rise nodded, his cybernetic eye whirring as it processed the tactical data streaming in. "Maintain course. Take us right into the heart of their formation." The Normandy glided past massive bioships, some still bearing the scars of the recent battle. Swarm drones flitted back and forth, but none seemed to pay any attention to the disguised Earth vessel. The camouflage was working, for now. As they penetrated deeper into the swarm formation, a massive structure came into view. Unlike the other bioships, this one pulsed with an inner light, tendrils of energy coursing across its surface. "That's it," Dr. Tanaka's voice came over the comm. "That's the new nexus, the central node of the entire swarm. If we can deliver the payload there." Rise understood the implication. Infecting the nexus would ensure the Prometheus virus spread to the entire swarm. It was the ideal target, and undoubtedly the most heavily defended. "Helm, bring us in close," Rise ordered. "Weapons, prepare the delivery system. On my mark, wheel." He was cut off by a sudden alarm. The tactical display flared red as dozens of swarm ships suddenly turned towards the Normandy. "They've detected us," the sensor officer cried out. Rise cursed under his breath. They were so close. Evasive maneuvers. Weapons free. "We're not leaving until that payload is delivered." The Normandy's disguise fell away as its weapon systems came online. Railguns roared to life, spitting hypervelocity rounds at the approaching swarm vessels. But they were vastly outnumbered, surrounded on all sides by an enemy that now knew they were there. "Shields failing," an officer reported as the swarm returned fire. "Hull breach on Deck 3. Rise gripped his command chair, his mind racing. They needed a distraction, something to buy them just a few more moments to get within range of the Nexus. Suddenly, a new voice crackled over the comm system. "Normandy, this is Admiral Chen. Cavalry's here. Give 'em hell." From the edge of the battlefield, the Earth fleet burst into view, guns blazing. Led by a hastily repaired Lazarus vessel, they tore into the swarm's rear, drawing attention away from the beleaguered Normandy. Rais felt a surge of hope. "This is our chance. Full power to engines. Get us to that Nexus." The Normandy surged forward, shrugging off hits as it closed the distance to its target. The massive Nexus loomed before them, its surface rippling as if alive. "We're in range," the weapons officer shouted. Rice didn't hesitate. "Fire the payload. Empty the banks." A swarm of missiles launched from the Normandy, each one carrying a potent dose of the Prometheus virus. They streaked towards the Nexus, leaving trails of golden light in their wake. Time seemed to slow as the missiles approached their target. Rise held his breath, knowing that everything, the sacrifices, the bold plans, the future of the galaxy itself, hinged on this moment. The missiles impacted the Nexus's surface, burrowing deep before detonating. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly at first, but with gathering speed, a change rippled across the massive bioship. Its pulsing light faltered, the energy tendrils flickering erratically. "Direct hit," Tanaka's voice was exultant. "The virus is taking hold." A cheer went up on the Normandy's bridge, quickly silenced as the ship rocked from another hit. "We're not out of this yet," Rise reminded his crew. "Helm, get us out of here." Emergency jumped to rendezvous coordinates. As the Normandy limped away from the battlefield, The effects of the Prometheus virus began to spread through the swarm fleet. Ships started to move erratically, their coordinated attacks falling into disarray. Back in the Geneva war room, Ilara Chen watched the tactical display with a mixture of hope and trepidation. "It's working," she breathed. "God help us, it's actually working." Beside her, Zixnereth nodded solemnly. "Your people have done the impossible, Admiral Chen. But I fear the real battle is only just beginning." Ilara turned to him, her eyes hard with determination. "Maybe so, High Admiral. But for the first time since this war began, we're fighting on our terms. The swarm wanted to consume us. Instead, we've changed the rules of the game." As reports flooded in from across the solar system, one thing became clear. The tide of the war had shifted. Humanity had bought itself time. Time to prepare, to innovate, to rally the galaxy against the swarm threat. The Battle of Saturn's Rings had shown the galaxy humanity's courage. Operation Prometheus had demonstrated their ingenuity. And in the crucible of this existential war, a new era of human history was being forged, one that would reshape the very stars themselves. A new era, reshaping the galactic order. 6 months had passed since Operation Prometheus, and the solar system was a hive of activity. Earth ships, now working in concert with vessels from across the Galactic Council, patrolled the outer reaches, ever watchful for signs of the swarm's return. But the immediate threat had receded, giving humanity a chance to catch its breath and to begin to grapple with its new place in the galactic order. In the rebuilt chambers of the United Nations in New York, now expanded to include holographic representatives from a dozen alien worlds, Admiral Ilara Chen stood before a podium. The eyes of Earth and a significant portion of the galaxy were upon her. "Fellow citizens of Earth, honored representatives of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice steady and clear. "6 months ago, we faced extinction. The swarm, a threat that had consumed countless worlds, came to our doorstep. We were expected to fall, to become just another footnote in the swarm's long history of conquest." She paused, allowing her gaze to sweep across the chamber. "Instead, we fought back. We unleashed weapons and tactics that the galaxy had never seen. We made sacrifices that will be remembered for generations to come." Her voice softened slightly. "To the crews of the Titan and all those who gave their lives in the Battle of Saturn's Rings, we owe a debt that can never be repaid." Ilara's expression hardened again. "But our victory came at a cost. The deployment of the hammer has left lasting scars on our solar system. Saturn's rings are gone, potentially disrupting the delicate balance of our outer planets for centuries to come. The singularity weapon, while effective, has raised serious ethical concerns among both our own scientists and our new galactic allies." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Ilara raised a hand for silence. Moreover, while Operation Prometheus was successful in disrupting the swarm's advance, we must face the reality that we have fundamentally altered the course of evolution for an entire species. The long-term consequences of this action are uncertain. She took a deep breath. "Which brings us to the purpose of this assembly. Humanity stands at a crossroads. We have proven ourselves on the galactic stage, demonstrated capabilities that have both awed and terrified our newfound allies. The question before us now is, what kind of galactic citizens do we wish to be?" As Ilara's words hung in the air, the chamber erupted into discussion. Holographic representatives from various alien worlds flickered as they argued among themselves. Earth's own delegates were no less animated, with fierce debates breaking out in multiple languages. In the midst of the chaos, a calm voice cut through the din. High Admiral Zixnereth, now serving as the Galactic Council's official liaison to Earth, stepped forward. "If I may, Admiral Chen," he said, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "The Galactic Council has spent much time deliberating on humanity's role in our shared future." The room fell silent, all attention now on the alien diplomat. "There is no denying that your species has demonstrated remarkable capabilities," Zixnereth continued. "Your technological innovations, particularly in the field of cybernetics and AI integration, are centuries ahead of what we believed possible for a species at your stage of development. His lower eyes narrowed slightly. However, this rapid advancement, coupled with your, shall we say, creative approach to problem solving, has raised concerns. There are those within the Council who fear that an unchecked humanity could pose a threat to galactic stability. A ripple of indignation went through the human delegates, but Zixnereth raised a hand to forestall protests. I, for one, do not share these fears. I have seen firsthand the nobility and self-sacrifice of which your species is capable. But I would be remiss if I did not convey the Council's concerns. Ilara nodded gravely. We understand, High Admiral. And we share some of those concerns ourselves. The power we've unleashed, it's not something to be taken lightly. She turned back to address the chamber at large, which is why I propose the following. A joint human galactic oversight committee, tasked with monitoring and guiding Earth's technological development. We will open our research facilities to our allies, sharing our advancements while benefiting from their millennia of experience. The proposal sent a fresh wave of murmurs through the assembly. It was an unprecedented level of openness, especially for a species that had so recently joined the galactic community. Furthermore, Ilara continued, her voice rising above the noise, we will commit to a program of gradual disarmament of our most destructive weapons, including the hammer technology. In return, we ask for full membership in the Galactic Council, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. The chamber erupted once more, but this time there was an undercurrent of excitement mixed with the controversy. Zixnereth's upper eyes widened in surprise. Admiral Chen, this is most unexpected. Are you certain your government is prepared for such a commitment? Ilara allowed herself a small smile. High Admiral, if there's one thing you should have learned about humanity by now, it's that we don't do things by half measures. We've seen the stars, walked among alien worlds. There's no going back to isolation for us now, as the debates raged on in other parts of the world. And indeed, the solar system, humanity continued to adapt to its new reality. On Mars, now home to a bustling colony of both humans and alien scientists, Dr. Yuki Tanaka led a team in analyzing the long-term effects of the Prometheus virus. Holographic displays showed the ongoing mutations in captured swarm specimens, each change meticulously documented and studied. The virus is working even better than we'd hoped, Yuki explained to a group of wide-eyed grad students. Each generation of the swarm is becoming less aggressive, more balanced with its environment. But we have to remain vigilant. One wrong mutation could undo everything we've accomplished. Meanwhile, in a secure facility beneath the lunar surface, Captain Diego Reyes underwent his latest cybernetic upgrade. As the neural interfaces were fine-tuned, he reflected on the changes the past months had brought. The Normandy, once the pride of Earth's fleet, now served as a diplomatic vessel, ferrying dignitaries between worlds. His crew, once soldiers, were becoming ambassadors. "How's it feel, Captain?" the technician asked as she made a final adjustment. Reyes flexed his new cybernetic arm, watching as the synthetic skin rippled and changed color to match his natural tone perfectly. "Like the future," he said with a wry smile. Back on Earth, in cities around the globe, the impact of first contact and the swarm war was evident everywhere. Alien exchange students mingled with humans in universities, their diverse forms drawing curious, but increasingly accepting glances. In research labs and tech startups, human scientists worked side by side with alien counterparts, merging disparate technologies to create innovations that would have been impossible just a year earlier. But perhaps the most profound changes were happening in the hearts and minds of Earth's citizens. The knowledge that they were not alone in the universe, that they had not only survived but triumphed against a galactic threat, had sparked a renaissance of human creativity and ambition. Art galleries showcased works that blended human and alien aesthetics. Musicians experimented with instruments that could produce sounds beyond human hearing, creating compositions that span the sensory ranges of multiple species. And in schools across the planet, children dreamed not just of being astronauts, but of becoming galactic explorers, diplomatic envoys to distant worlds, or xenobiologists studying life forms beyond imagination. As the UN Assembly in New York worked to hammer out the details of humanity's new role in the galactic community, a small ceremony was taking place in orbit above Earth. The Titan Memorial Station, a massive space habitat built from reclaimed swarm biotechnology, was being officially commissioned. Admiral Ilara Chen stood before a viewport, gazing out at the blue marble of Earth below. Beside her, Captain Aria Novak's daughter, a young woman with her mother's determined eyes, prepared to cut the ribbon. "Your mother would be proud," Ilara said softly. "This station, this new era we're entering, it's all possible because of her sacrifice and the sacrifice of every soul aboard the Titan." The young woman nodded, blinking back tears. Do you think it was worth it? All we've lost?" Ilara was quiet for a long moment, her gaze drifting to the stars beyond. "I think," she said finally, "that your mother and her crew gave us a chance. A chance not just to survive, but to thrive. To become something greater than we ever imagined. And it's up to us to make sure their sacrifice wasn't in vain." As the ribbon was cut and cheers erupted from the assembled crowd, Ilara's comm unit beeped. It was a priority message from Earth. The UN Assembly had reached a decision. With a mixture of anticipation and trepidation, Ilara opened the message. As she read, a slow smile spread across her face. She looked up, meeting the curious gazes of those around her. "It's official," she announced. "Earth has been granted full membership in the Galactic Council. We're to send a permanent delegation to the Council homeworld immediately." She paused, her smile widening. "And they've accepted our proposal for a joint oversight committee. We're really doing this. We're becoming part of something bigger than ourselves." The news spread quickly, rippling across the station and down to Earth below. In cities and towns across the globe, people poured into the streets, celebrating this new chapter in human history. Fireworks lit up the night sky, their colorful bursts mingling with the alien ships now openly visiting Earth's orbit. As the festivities continued, Ilara found a quiet moment to herself. She stood before the memorial wall on the station, her fingers tracing the names etched into its surface. So many lost, so much sacrifice to reach this point. "We did it," she whispered to the silent names. "We survived. We proved ourselves. And now we're going to touch the stars." A flash of movement caught her eye. Outside the viewport, a sleek ship of clearly alien design glided past. Its hull shimmered with colors no human eye had seen before first contact. Yet at its helm, Ilara could just make out the figure of a human pilot, working in seamless concert with an alien crew. It was a glimpse of the future, a future where humanity was no longer bound by the limits of their solar system or their own biology, a future of endless possibilities, of challenges and wonders beyond imagination. As Ilara watched the ship disappear into the starry depths, she felt a profound sense of both humility and pride. Humanity had faced its greatest test and emerged not just victorious, but transformed. They had stared into the abyss of extinction and instead found a bridge to a larger universe. The swarm had come to consume them. Instead, it had become the crucible in which a new humanity was forged, a humanity ready to take its place among the stars. As the Earth turned below, its night side glittering with the lights of a civilization on the brink of a new age, Ilara Chen smiled. The future was uncertain, filled with both promise and peril. But one thing was clear: humanity's next great adventure was just beginning. And this time, they would face it not alone, but as part of a vast, complex, wondrous galactic community. The stars, once distant and unreachable, now beckoned, and humanity, tested by fire and tempered by sacrifice, was ready to answer their call.